Imagine staring at a piece of cloth that's nearly 2,000 years old and discovering the face of Jesus himself imprinted on it. Sounds unbelievable, right? However, scientists have recently shown this may be true. It all starts with a simple ancient cloth called the Shroud of Turin. Most of the world kept it hidden and forgotten for centuries. But there's something very strange about this cloth. It holds the faint outline of a man. Over 100 years ago, a photographer named Secondo Pia took the first ever photo of the shroud, and what he saw left everyone speechless. When he developed the image, a clear picture of a man's face appeared. It wasn't just any face, but a face that bore a striking resemblance to Jesus. People assumed the image was a fake, a cleverly painted picture, so scientists began studying the shroud, expecting to expose it as a fraud. But what they found was the opposite. Upon conducting tests, they discovered the image was not a painting at all. It was a genuine, tangible imprint of a crucified man. This wasn't just some old story. This was something real. As technology advanced, more scientists jumped on the case. In 1988, a group tried to prove that the shroud wasn't old enough to be from Jesus' time. Their carbon dating tests indicated that the cloth originated from the Middle Ages, specifically 2,000 years ago. The tests were flawed. They didn't take into account a fire the shroud had survived centuries earlier. Recently, scientists used X-ray scattering, a new technology, to test the shroud once more. They discovered that the shroud is from between 55 and 75 AD, almost exactly when Jesus would have been alive. Scientists believe it took an insane amount of energy, 6.4 gigawatts, to create the image on the shroud. That's enough power to light up an entire city. Using artificial intelligence, scientists fed the shroud's image into a computer. The AI reconstructed the face of the man on the shroud. The face features long hair, a beard, and wounds that correspond to the injuries Jesus would have sustained during his crucifixion. It's a face we all recognize. Art, churches, and stories have depicted this face for centuries. A French knight named Geoffrey de Charny owned the Shroud of Turin when it first appeared in historical records in the 1300s. This wasn't just any old relic. It was believed to hold the very image of Jesus Christ. Over the centuries, people passed down the shroud, which survived a devastating fire in 1532 and ultimately found its home in the Turin Cathedral in Italy. The shrine rarely opens to the public due to its age, fragility, and deep religious significance. We organize official displays known as ostensions under careful conditions, typically for special occasions or significant religious anniversaries. These viewings draw large crowds of pilgrims and tourists, eager to witness what many believe to be the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. The Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, houses the shroud, securely storing it in a climate-controlled case when not in use. The Catholic Church and local authorities meticulously plan and announce public displays well in advance. One of the most notable public exhibitions occurred in 2015, marking the 200th anniversary of the birth of St. John Bosco, a beloved figure in the Catholic Church. This exhibition, like many others, attracted millions of visitors from around the world. He has also been displayed during other significant religious moments, such as the Jubilee years, a tradition in the Catholic Church meant to celebrate milestones of faith and offer special pilgrimages. In recent years, advancements in technology have made it possible to share the shroud with an even broader audience, despite its physical limitations. We have used digital reproductions of the shroud to showcase its detailed features without risking damage to the original cloth. High-resolution images of the shroud allow for a closer examination than what would be possible during a physical viewing. These digital versions have made the shroud more accessible to people worldwide, providing an opportunity for study and reflection even when the actual relic is not on display. In 2020, during the height of the global pandemic, the Archbishop of Turin organized a virtual display of the shroud. Millions of viewers from around the world were able to witness the shroud from their homes thanks to the live streaming of the digital event. If you closely examine the shroud, you will notice a faint outline of a man with his arms crossed, his eyes closed, and visible crucifixion wounds on his body. The face, serene and calm, bears a striking resemblance to the traditional images of Jesus. For hundreds of years, people believed that this could be the very cloth that wrapped Jesus' body after his death. However, not everyone found belief alone sufficient. Skeptics sought proof, which is where science came into play. In the 1970s, a group of scientists known as the Shroud of Turin Research Project, STURP, decided to take a closer look. They gathered the best minds and the most advanced technology available at the time, expecting to prove that the image was nothing more than a medieval forgery. They ran more tests, used advanced imaging technology, and found something even more astonishing. The image was a perfect negative, enhancing its clarity when photographed. This wasn't just some clever medieval trick, this was something far more mysterious. But the real breakthrough came in 1988 when scientists decided to date the shroud using radiocarbon dating. Many interpret the multiple puncture-like wounds on the figure's scalp as injuries consistent with the crown of thorns placed on Jesus' head during his crucifixion. These marks indicate that sharp objects punctured the man's scalp in various locations during a similar form of torture. The man on the shroud has distinct puncture marks on both his hands and feet. These wounds are widely believed to represent the injuries caused by nails during crucifixion. The traditional crucifixion nailed the victim's hands and feet to the cross, and the markings on the shroud closely match this description, further strengthening the association with Christ's crucifixion. Numerous linear injuries, resembling the effects of scourging, mark the back of the figure. These marks suggest the man was whipped or beaten with a sharp object, possibly a Roman flagrum, which was a type of whip used during punishment in Roman times. The spread of the scourging injuries across the back suggests brutal treatment. Additionally, a significant wound on the figure's right side corresponds to the account of a spear piercing Jesus on the cross. The side wound, located just below the ribcage, aligns with the Gospel of John's account of a Roman soldier piercing Jesus' side to confirm his death, 1934. The overall posture of the man on the shroud, with his arms crossed over his body and his legs straightened, suggests that he had been laid to rest after suffering a violent death. There are no signs of decomposition on his body, suggesting that his burial occurred shortly after his death. In a series of tests conducted at labs in Arizona, Switzerland, and Oxford, the scientists hoped to finally put the shroud's age to rest. But the results threw everything into chaos. The tests showed that he was from the Middle Ages, not the time of Jesus. For many, this was proof that he was nothing more than a clever fake. The world was ready to dismiss it as a hoax. Fast forward to the 21st century. Since the 1980s, science has made significant advancements, bringing new tools to uncover ancient secrets. A team of Italian scientists took on the challenge once again, but this time they used a cutting-edge technique called wide-angle X-ray scattering. This method allowed them to study the tiny fibers of the linen and measure how they had aged over time. Disaster struck in 1532 while the shroud was in storage at the Sainte-Chapelle in Chambéry, France. The shroud survived a massive fire, but it suffered significant damage. Molten silver from its protective casket burned through the fabric in several places, scorching parts of the cloth. Despite these damages, the image of the man's face remained untouched. This event became part of the shroud's legend, further fueling the belief that the relic was miraculous. The royal chapel of the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, became its permanent home in 1578. This relocation only increased its significance, transforming it from a regional treasure into a symbol known across the Christian world. The most famous of these investigations took place in 1988, when scientists from 3 respected laboratories conducted carbon dating tests on the shroud. The aim was to ultimately ascertain the cloth's creation date. To the dismay of many believers, the results indicated that the shroud was created between 1260 and 1390 AD, far too recent to be from the time of Jesus. Skeptics quickly declared victory, assuming the shroud was a clever medieval forgery. Faith, by its very nature, doesn't rely on proof. It is the confidence in things hoped for, the assurance of things not seen. Christianity, in particular, encourages believers to trust in God, even without physical evidence. In fact, one of the most famous teachings of Jesus comes from his encounter with the Apostle Thomas, who doubted Jesus' resurrection until he could physically see and touch the wounds from the crucifixion. Jesus gently rebuked Thomas, saying, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." John 20:29. For many Christians, the Shroud of Turin is a powerful symbol of faith, not because it provides evidence, but because it represents something larger, a connection to the divine. Whether the shroud is genuine or not, it has served as a reminder to believers that their faith is not dependent on physical artifacts. In this context, the shrine's true value lies in its ability to inspire devotion and strengthen spiritual convictions. This is where the line between faith and proof becomes blurred. For believers, the shroud's significance is inextricably tied to their faith. For skeptics, no amount of physical evidence may ever be enough to cross that line into belief. For some, losing the shroud as a genuine artifact could feel like losing a piece of their connection to Jesus. It's not about the physical cloth itself, but about what it represents. If the revered object turns out to be false, it could raise questions about other aspects of faith. While many Christians understand that their belief is not dependent on objects, the emotional attachment to such a relic runs deep. They fear that proof to the contrary could shake their unshakable faith. The Shroud of Turin reveals something crucial about the human experience. Faith and doubt often exist side by side. Even within religious communities, doubt is not uncommon. The first documented mention of him dates back to the 14th century, specifically in the year 1357 in the town of Lire, France. Geoffrey de Charny, a French knight whose family possessed the relic, presented it to the public. The shroud was displayed in the church of Lire, drawing attention from local believers and religious figures who were intrigued by the mysterious image of a man that appeared to be imprinted on the cloth. This event marked the shroud's emergence into historical records, where it quickly gained reverence as a possible relic of Christ. However, despite its official debut in the 1300s, there are theories and unconfirmed reports suggesting that the history of the shroud stretches much further back. Some scholars and religious historians propose that the cloth may have been in circulation among early Christian communities since the 1st century, possibly linking it to the burial of Jesus Christ. One of the most widely accepted theories suggests that Christians may have passed down the shroud through generations, hidden it for safekeeping, and periodically rediscovered it throughout history. If you've made it this far and found yourself captivated by the mystery, then Shroud of Turin, consider supporting us with a super thanks. By contributing, you're helping us continue exploring the fascinating intersection of faith, history, and science. While no documented proof from earlier centuries exists, supporters of the earlier timeline argue that certain descriptions of burial cloths in early Christian writings could correspond to the shroud. Additionally, some accounts suggest the shroud may have traveled through regions like Constantinople, Edessa, and Jerusalem before eventually finding its way to France. The connection between the shroud and these earlier periods remains a topic of debate among historians, archaeologists, and religious scholars. The shroud's power lies not just in what it represents, but in the tension between faith and science, belief and evidence. For believers, it serves as a tangible reminder of Christ's suffering and sacrifice, a symbol of faith that inspires reverence and devotion. The scientific studies conducted over the years, while revealing, have raised as many questions as they have answered. Modern technology, carbon dating results, and X-ray imaging have all contributed to the puzzle, yet the complete picture remains elusive. Perhaps that's part of the shroud's allure. Its refusal to fully reveal its secrets keeps us searching, keeps us asking questions, and keeps the mystery alive. Despite centuries of debate, the shroud endures. Its story continues to captivate millions around the world. Whether viewed in person or through digital reproductions, its presence stirs deep emotions and encourages reflection on matters of faith, history, and science. The shroud isn't just a relic. It's a symbol of the human desire to connect with something greater than ourselves, to find meaning in the mysteries that surround us. He challenges us to reflect on more than just its mysterious origins. It challenges us to reflect on the nature of belief itself. But even if it doesn't, the Shroud of Turin will forever remain a powerful symbol, one that encourages us to keep seeking, keep questioning, and most importantly, to keep believing. Thank you for watching this video. Be part of our community by subscribing to the channel until the next video.